During those conversations, I would imagine there would have been a lot of transparency about where the club was. They'd been relegated from the Premier League. Like Neil hadn't particularly gone well that season, back in the Championship, and then you arrive, and then one of the first ports of call, I think, was the appointment of the manager, of Daniel Farabaugh. What was it that drew you towards him as a manager?
Yeah, well, when I was at Huddersfield, a big part of this job is, succession planning for your key staff and obviously succession planning for players. And, so at Huddersfield, obviously we had David Wagner, who was doing great things. And we always felt that, at some point he would leave Huddersfield, certainly if we didn't get promoted. So, we always had a plan in place as to who would the next person be. Or who would the next person be out of a group of people, and one of the people I started speaking to was Daniel, and I started to get a relationship with him, and realised watched him work, and spoke to a lot of people who played for him and worked under him, and everything was coming back really positive as of what he was like. So when I came here, obviously Alex had left, and Al Nervine was in charge until the summer, so we needed a head coach. So my first job was to go and appoint a head coach, and I'll be honest with you, I brought over the list that we had at Huddersfield in terms of potential candidates, because the club strategy is very similar here to Huddersfield, just probably on a bigger scale and under much more of a microscope here. And Daniel was always a person at the top of that list. And if you look at our sort of key objectives for our club, one is we wanted someone to bring in a style of play which we can then build the club on, which will then exceed managerial change in the future. We needed somebody who's got a proven track record of developing players, because we had a financial hole to fill, and we weren't going to fill that by selling experienced players, because no one wants to buy them. They only want to buy young up-and-coming players in general. And we needed somebody really open-minded when it comes to recruitment. Not we couldn't afford to appoint a coach who would only take players from one market, or just have British players, which are really expensive, because fundamentally we don't have the money to go and buy loads of experienced Championship players. So that's, he ticked all them boxes. Obviously we've got some deep criteria on that in terms of around the style of play and different things, but they're the sort of key points which he ticked, and that's why we made the decision to go with him.
Well, he's clearly bought into that project, and at times last year you had to make tough decisions, balancing the books. Can you tell us a little bit about how difficult that was? I think you've brought in about 80 million quid in transfer fees with those young players, the likes of the Murphy twins. Obviously, James Maddison went to Leicester in the summer. Shopping in different supermarkets maybe than traditionally Norwich would have been in different countries. Yeah. How difficult has it been to make all those tough decisions?
It's been really tough. And the toughest thing, Keith, has been going through a massive financial transition, which, we have to, because the owners don't put money in. We're a self-funded club. So going through a massive financial transition, but still maintaining a good level of expectation and hope. Because, it would have been easy to solve the financial problem by just selling all the best players. But then you take away hope from the supporters, from the staff, from the players that have left here and that are still here, because there's players here, we've been selling their mates around them who they know are top players, obviously the ones you've mentioned there. But, even people like John Ruddy, Johnny Howson, Ryan Bennett, all these guys we've had to let go or sell because of financial reasons. And, so, it's like you've been sat in the dressing room, you've got a group of 20 players sat there going, there's another top player gone, there's another top player. And then we're bringing in players who they've never heard of. And they're going, who's this guy? He's come from the German league, or he's come from the Spanish second division, or he's come from Denmark. And so sort of keeping that balance has been really hard. And what we've tried to do whilst doing that is we've tried to massively improve the environment at the training ground. So we've added, for example, we've added 2 extra pitches. We've put floodlights up around one of the pitches so we can train later on in the afternoons on certain days. We've done out that canteen area and put like a real high-class sort of restaurant facility, because what we wanted to show the players is, we have got some tough times coming up, and yes, we are having to sell really good players, but we're still investing in the club and we're still investing in you to make you better. And I think we got that balance pretty good, because we were always confident the players we were bringing in were good players, but like I say, the lads sat in the dressing room, we've never heard of them. It takes a bit of time to convince them that we will be all right. And, hopefully they've all sort of shown up pretty well now. And, I think the guys who are still here, your sort of Alex Tetties, your Grant Hanleys, the sort of real senior figures in the dressing room, I think, really sort of buying into it as well.
How difficult was it at stages last year? Because obviously you know all the ins and outs of what's going on behind the scenes. I think you have been very transparent actually in terms of what you've portrayed to the fans in particular. And obviously it's not going to be very popular, is it? Because last season at times, performance is understandably up and down. Fans want to get in contention with that top six and they want to dream. But checkered in terms of the results, performances last year. But this season in particular, you've really just shot on. I suppose it's been that consistency in terms of the relationship between yourself and Daniel Farabaugh, and obviously the players really buying into that.
It is, and it's been really tough because, internally, we've had a plan, we've had a strategy, and that's why to be honest, Keith, we're trying to be honest from day one, because we actually knew this is going to get worse before it gets better, unless we just got unbelievably lucky and started last season, and you just, I don't know, one of your strikers hits it off, and you can have a little bit of luck sometimes. But, really, we sat there last summer thinking, you know what, this is going to get worse before it gets better. So, we were really clear that we've actually got to message that out to supporters, or, we'll get accused of lying, there'll be massive unrest. And I think that worked well, and I got to be honest, the fans stuck with us really well last year through some pretty difficult times, some pretty dire performances, if we're honest. And I said many a time, if I would have been a paying spectator at some of them games, I would have gone home unbelievably disappointed. And we got that. We never tried to sugarcoat it. We admitted that this isn't what we want it to look like, of course, and we just had to have faith that they would fundamentally keep believing in us, especially at the start of this season, because we knew in the summer, deep down we thought, we might not have the individuals that we had last year in terms of the Murphys, or Josh Murphy and Maddison, or Angus Gunn, who was obviously exceptional as well. But we actually felt, we think we've got a better group. We think we've got a better balance to our squad. We think we've got a better team spirit. So we were always sort of confident going into this year that we'd be sort of better. Obviously, we've hit it off so far unbelievably well. Which is way above our expectations. But we always felt that we'd be a lot stronger this year, which would then hopefully show the supporters and the players and the rest of the staff in the club that, maybe this is going in the right direction, and we do want to be a part of it, because, we see so many clubs, where they look like the hope's been ripped apart from them. They're almost a little bit soulless, and we've had to work really hard to make sure that wasn't us. And I think, so far, it seems to be working, and what it's like now. We've got momentum. Everything we do seems to be working, which is nice, and people are buying into it. And suddenly 0-0 at Hull on Tuesday, was seen as a good point, whereas probably last year that would have been seen as that's rubbish. But it's because the mindset's just different, and hopefully, we've all worked really hard and know more than the manager and the players to turn this around. Hopefully, they can obviously keep it going.
Hi Stuart, it's Joe here. I'm sitting in alongside Keith.
Hi, Joe.
And listening with interest. It's fascinating what you've done. When you talk there about actually having to let the fans know that this is going to get worse before it gets better, that's quite an interesting thing. I'm just curious, how did you do that in practical terms? Because there's also the element of not wanting to give players excuses either. Did you have to go out and tell everybody in the local press? Is that how you did it?
Yeah, so what we did, the sort of plan or the strategy with it was we needed to make sure that we had to protect the manager and not make him constantly the spokesman for the club or the bearer of bad news. And we had to protect his relationship with the players. So at no point did the players feel that, let's say selling Johnny Howson was the manager's decision. So I'll be honest with you, Joe, lots of times I've had to take the flak, including in the club or on the outside. And that's fine, because, I see part of my job is not, delivering good news. Everyone's capable of doing that, but it's sometimes delivering the less good news. And if it means it protects his relationship with the players, his relationship with supporters, we have to do that, because fundamentally, if people want to boo me on a Saturday or whatever, it actually doesn't matter. Whereas what we don't want is then that rubbing off onto the players or the manager. So, because we don't want them to lose their confidence or whatever. So we sort of had a plan that I would sort of keep dropping it in, and we did lots of stuff in the local media. We did a few bits in the national media and called some favours in, where we could tell people the truth, but then almost alongside that, give them this is a situation, but by the way, this is how we're going to work through it. So rather than just telling everyone the problem, because the problems were easy to talk about, actually talk around the solution. And the key thing for us was internally is it couldn't be we couldn't just say words for the sake of it. So we couldn't say we're going to invest in the academy and we're going to create a real clear bridge for the young players to get in our first team, and then sit here and then never play any young players, because everyone, quite rightly, it might buy you a year, but then a year later everyone's ramming them same words down your throat. And by the way, quite rightly, we couldn't talk about doing foreign recruitment and listen, we believe we can get real good value in players abroad, and with this coach and this setup, he can make them better. Again, we couldn't do that and then go and sign a load of journeyman players from the Championship. So what we were really key is, at the start, is, right, we're going to send a certain message out of this is the club strategy. So rather than people then basically thinking, oh, it's the manager's choice to get rid of all these senior players, make a load of money and then bring a load of kids in, made it very much look like a club sort of thing, so we could protect him and the team. But then also as a club, it was like everything we messaged, we've had to constantly review as to, are we on track for that? Are we on track for that? Because if not, it'll come back to hurt you. And you know, fundamentally, you know, I'm a football fan, and I think the thing which hurts a fan and more than anything else is not knowing what's going on. You pay a lot of money, and it's like, just tell us the truth. Yeah. And the big thing we've tried to do is message that of, listen, we'll tell you the truth, but sometimes it won't be a nice truth, because they all want to hear the truth when, oh, the truth is we're giving, you know, Emi Buendia a new contract because he's brilliant. Oh, yeah, we want to hear that. It's better than, oh, by the way, we're selling James Maddison because if we don't, the club will go bust. But we said, let's be consistent, and we'll tell you the good things as well as you know, a few of the bad things.
Stuart, with the way the Championship has gone this year and how condensed, tight it is at the top of the league, and I suppose with the way that yous have done in particular, you spoke about the financial restrictions and the way you're trying to run the football club. Is there a temptation come January with the position you're in to maybe speculate, to get over the line and what I think is a really, really wide open Championship, or will it be very much sticking to the plan?
No, very much sticking to the plan. For sort of two reasons. One is financially we're not in a position to have any money to do it. And secondly, if you look at our squad, I'm just stood in my office now and I've got it in front of us. You've got Grant Hanley, hasn't played for about 10 weeks because of injury. He's now fit. Kenny McLean hasn't played since the second game of the season. He's now fully fit. Louis Thompson's only a month away. Was an integral part earlier on in the season. And then you've got Ben Marshall, who's had some illnesses and different things. He's now fully fit. Who can't get back in the team. And they're probably four players at the start of the season we would have said, oh yeah, they'll play probably 60-70% of our games. So we've also got people coming back who can't even make our 18 at the moment. And that's why I think if we were looking at it, so for example, when we were at Huddersfield, the year of promotion, we added two players in the January. We added Izzy Brown on loan from Chelsea, and we added Colin Kwana from Union Berlin. But if you look at that squad, we were really thin. And it's like, Paul, we need some help here because we're sort of running out a little bit. Whereas here, touch wood, barring a real serious injury or a real serious drop-off of form for somebody, we actually look at the group and go, you know what, we've actually got quite good strength in numbers.
Stuart, listen, it's been fascinating listening to you in depth talk about it. I've enjoyed watching your team for far. Hopefully we'll get to Carrow soon. Thanks for taking the time today.
Pleasure. Cheers, Keith.
Thanks,
Cheers, Stuart. Speak to you soon.